Hello and welcome to Twist Grip Tales, and have we got a tale for you today? We're interviewing a man, a mild-mannered reporter, book writer, motorcycle enthusiast, racer and concourse judge, Ian Falloon. Welcome to Twist Grip Tales.
Thank you, Bruce.
You've put so many questions to me about who we should be interviewing, and Ian's name came out top of the list. So that's why we're starting with Ian with this interview. We're going to have three sections here. We're going to be talking about Ian, the motorcyclist, how he came to be a motorcyclist and his life in motorcycles. We're going to talk about Ian, the book writer, and what influenced him in book writing. And we're going to finish off with Ian, the concourse judge and motorcycle authenticator, because there are so many chapters to this man, not just in his books, but we'll get to that later too. So let's start. Episode 1, Ian Falloon, the man. You were born in New Zealand, Ian.
Correct.
We're not going to hold that against you because you've come to live, and you call yourself an Aussie now?
No, I don't actually, really. I have an Australian citizenship, but I just like to think of myself just as a, person.
This might be a problem to some of you, but in Australia, between Australia and New Zealand, we have this thing called ANZAC. Australia and New Zealand, the Army Corps, a bond, Ian, forged in World War I, and it continues right through to this day, where we Australians, he's naturalised Australian, we love them. They come across the ditch, they live here, and we enjoy the fruit that they've got. So many good ideas have come out of New Zealand. Bert Munro, John Britton, Ian Falloon. So you came here, when did you come here, Ian?
1979.
So you did your schooling over there?
I did my schooling over there and I got into motorcycles over there. Yeah.
So what was your first motorcycle?
A Ducati 750 GT.
What a great bike. And what colour?
Well, it was an orange one. You didn't have to have learners. You just ride anything as a learning bike, So I got into bikes through my flatmates. And one flatmate had a Suzuki T500 two-stroke and the other had a BSA 650 Lightning. And they always used to argue the British versus Japanese thing. And everyone agreed that the best of both worlds was the Ducati 750. British handling, Japanese reliability, that's it.
What a sensible conclusion.
Yeah.
Because what a gorgeous bike that is.
It is. It certainly is. And that I'm still very fond of the Ducati 750 GT, even all these years down the track.
And I think my first new bike was the same, of the orange GT. And I remember that I had the choice of the GT, the Sport, or the Super Sport on the showroom floor. And I think between the GT, between the three of those, possibly all of them are in the top 10 best looking bikes ever made, I think. Especially the Sport.
Yeah, well, my second bike that I bought was a Sport. My first new bike was a Sport. It was sitting next to the Super Sport as well, but I couldn't afford the Super Sport back then. So I traded the GT in on the Sport.
And did you keep that on the road, or is that when you started racing?
No, I kept that on the road. And then I sold that to get a Super Sport later. And then I raced the Super Sport when I came over to Australia. I brought that with me.
All right.
Yeah.
But you were tuning not motorcycles, but oboes in New Zealand.
Well, I played the oboe, yeah.
Did that help you tune the Desmos?
Not really.
All right.
No.
But you fell in love with Desmos?
No, actually, I fell in love with a 90-degree V-twin. That's what I like, the perfect primary balance. Like all these other bikes. I had other bikes as well. I had Japanese bikes, and I've always had more than one bike. And I had Norden Commandos and stuff. But the Ducati was always the smoothest. It's the one that didn't vibrate. The carburetor float bowls off. It didn't vibrate.
You're talking about the
exhaust.
Norden.
The Norden didn't vibrate. The exhaust pipes didn't come off. All this sort of stuff. That was the one that didn't vibrate. And yeah, that's what I thought. Why don't all manufacturers make 90-degree V-twins? That's what I thought. Yeah.
They are a lovely bike. So this was all in New Zealand, and then you came across to Australia. Did you bring any of those across?
Yeah, no, I did. I brought the Super Sport over, the Desmo. I came to Australia to play in the Symphony Orchestra in Western Australia, and I didn't actually bring my bike over at that stage, but I brought a Ducati over there. I brought a Dharma. over there. And then I moved from West Australia to Sydney. I took the Dharma to Sydney, and I moved to Melbourne. And at that stage, I got into more Ducatis, Panthers, and various things. And
So you're primarily working with with orchestras?
I was. But what I used to do when I was working with the orchestra in New Zealand, I had a part-time job working for the Ducati distributor. So I had a lot of access to documentation, factory documentation, which is how I got on into the writing, because I had access to all this information that other people didn't have, distributor information. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll get onto your writing in a little while.
Yeah.
So, but you've done a little bit of racing around the traps as well.
Oh, only club racing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then up at Winton and places. The Verda Club. We used to do the Verda Club in the 70s. Not 70s, 80s, yeah. So, yeah. And at Phillip Island. But Phillip Island is not so good for the old Ducatis because they're just flat out all the time, so it's not good for the engines. Yeah.
But it tests them out good and proper.
Yeah, it wears them out. Yeah.
So which track did you like best?
I've raced in New Zealand on a few tracks. Ruapuna, Winton here, Ruapuna and Levels. And I quite like Ruapuna in New Zealand. That was quite good. And at Manfield, I raced there as well. But that was on the sport. That was back before I had the super sport. Yeah.
Okay. So in Australia, you're working in the symphony orchestras. Were you working with Ducati distributors over here as well?
Not here, no. That was in New Zealand. Yeah. So here I just played in the orchestras, but I always kept getting all the information about Ducatis because I had the network, I had the contacts in the factory, so I was always getting the information through the people in Ducati.
Yeah. And so getting married, did that affect your relationship with motorcycles at all?
I've been married more than once.
Okay.
When I married Miriam, that was after I'd had my serious accident, and I haven't really ridden bikes a lot since then. It just hasn't been the same. So I suppose it has changed, yeah. Yeah.
So that serious accident put a whole change into your career as well. So there was a motorcycle accident?
Yeah, it was a motorcycle accident. Yeah, that completely changed everything. Yeah.
All right. So that that damaged your finger?
Damaged my hand, elbow, and leg. Yeah, I couldn't play professionally anymore. So that finished that, and it basically finished. I couldn't ride motorcycles to the same extent either. Like I can't shift on the right. I can't kickstart a motorcycle. This sort of stuff.
So electric start is good, or left side kickstart? So
No. Well, I had a left side kickstart, but that don't work very well, Yeah, no, it has to be electric start and left side gear shift.
But this ignited another passion, took you down a different path, which had amazing ramifications. You went into teaching, and you went into book writing as well.
I started off writing magazine writing, so I started journalism, and that grew into books because I had all these articles written in magazines about. They're historical articles about Ducatis mainly, and I wrote for a few international magazines, and then another author started copying my articles word for word, and I didn't think that was a good thing.
What do they say? Plagiarism is the greatest form of flattery?
Yeah, so I actually approached the author and I said, you're copying my articles word for word, and he says, well, I couldn't improve on it. So I thought, well, I'll write my own book then. So that's how I wrote the first book. I sent a whole lot of articles, photocopies of articles, to a publisher, and then they accepted it. That was the Ducati story. Yeah.
So today, Ian, we're going to finish off this Ian the Man. So today, Ian, you're the author of 45 odd books on motorcycles of many different
That's right.
marks.
Yeah.
And you're an authenticator of motorcycles of different marks. You're a judge, concourse judge, and you are, I think the word guru is not too far removed from where we're at. So despite the fact that you've had a shocking motorcycle accident and taken you away from your joy of playing the oboe, but both of your children are actually very musically inclined too, aren't they? Well, at least one of them is.
Well, yeah, they were, but they were so realistic that you can't really make a living. It's like being an author,
Yes, if you're thinking about making a living out of writing books, unless your name is J.K. Rawlings or something similar, don't think it's going to pay the way. But it's a great way to open doors, and we're going to talk about that with Ian very, very shortly. So, Ian, thank you for talking about your amazing time riding motorcycles and owning motorcycles. And we're going to talk about the next section. Come back, see us soon. Episode 2, Ian Falloon, the author. Thanks for watching Twist Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks, Ian.
Okay, Bruce.